everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Hayley and I love talking all things books. So if that sounds like something you might be interested in, then please consider subscribing. I decided to take a little drive down to the beach. I just went for a walk and got a little juice from this little crepe stand right on the water. I thought I'd get myself a little treat to have while I go through all of the books that I read in the month of February. And I had a surprisingly good reading month. I read 9 books, and for the fact that it's a shorter month, and I've also had a really busy month, like we've kind of had a lot on the weekends and work has been busy as well. I'm pretty happy with how many books that I read. I wasn't expecting to have quite so many to talk about. I do have a pretty small stack of physical books because I've done a lot of reading on my Kindle and I read a few audiobooks this month as well. So let's get into it. The first book that I finished up at the start of Feb was Reveal Me, and this is part of the Shatter Me series. It's number 5.5, so it's a novella in the series, and it was very quick, an easy read. This is another novella in Kenji's point of view, which I have been loving, but in this one he does start to get on my nerves a little bit. I don't exactly know why. He's angry a lot of the time and he doesn't really seem like himself. Yeah, I can't really talk too much about this. Obviously it's number 5.5 in the series, but if you don't know, Shatter Me is a kind of a dystopian fantasy YA series where we follow Juliet, who is at the start of the series trapped in an asylum because her touch is lethal, and on the outside of the asylum the world is falling apart. Birds don't fly anymore, diseases are destroying the population, and the re-establishment have basically stepped up to save the world, but really they're using it as an excuse to take over the world. And so yeah, we go from there, and obviously in the next 5 books a lot more happens than that, but overall I do like the series. It's a very easy to read book with simple writing and a fun plot line, a really good enemies to lovers romance, and I rated this novella 4 stars. After that, the next book that I finished was Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. I've finally gotten through every single one of the Harry Potter audiobooks, and I'm so happy to be finished and to be able to move on and listen to some other audiobooks. But I did love them as well. I especially loved this last one. It was so long, but the storyline was great. Obviously I knew the story from watching the movies, and I had read the books when I was a teenager, but it had been so long, so it was great to get through and really see all those little details that they missed out on in the movies. I especially loved all the details about the house elves, about Dobby. That was so cute to read about. And I don't really have too much to say. It's Harry Potter. I rated this one 5 stars, and I gave 5 stars to every book in that series. The next audiobook that I finished was Two Can Play by Ali Hazelwood, and this was an unexpected one. I absolutely loved this. This is a kind of novella. It's a shorter audiobook that I think Ali Hazelwood has actually just published as a physical book, like within the last couple of months I saw, but I listened to it and it was a really great one to listen to. I think we follow Viola, who is a video game designer, so such a fun industry to start off with, and the company that she works for is about to start designing a game based off a book series that's really special to her, but they're creating this game with kind of the company's rival video game creating company. So in order to get the employees from both of these companies, who currently all dislike each other, to get along, they send them all on like a snow retreat, and it is so fun. I loved seeing how they all just they all hate each other, but there are these little like relationships that start to happen, or that have kind of already been happening between people within the companies and with each other, and it's fun to see them bond and to become like one big team eventually. And then so the male main character is Jesse, and he works on the rival company's team, and they need to be working very closely together in this role to get this video game happening. And I didn't love him at the start. I feel like he was, similarly to in a couple of Ali Hazelwood's books, he was excessively rude to her and disinterested for no reason. Like, I felt like you could tell, because I know from her writing that eventually when he explains that he's always been in love with her, that it's going to be a misunderstanding and that he will have been in love with her this whole time. But it just felt a bit, I don't know, I didn't love him. But that definitely changed as soon as they started to get to know each other, and the yearning that that man had for Viola, you really get to see how much he has been obsessed with her over the years, because before this they've both been in the industry for years, and so they've met at different events, and she's always thought that he's just been uninterested and not disliked her, but just had no reason to talk to her or even look at her. But you can really see he's actually been obsessed with her. And Ali Hazelwood just does that well. She really knows how to write an obsessed, yearning man, and I loved it. There were a lot of cringy lines, a lot of cringy scenes, but I didn't care. It was fun. I loved it. And the tension between them was so good. And I loved when he does reveal how much he's been obsessing over her. He even remembers like little things like the hairstyles that she wore at like a specific convention months ago, or the outfit she was wearing at this event a year ago. He is very similar to a lot of Ali Hazelwood's men. It's another quiet, huge man who has been yearning over the FMC for years, but acts disinterested and a bit rude and grumpy, and has only shown coldness towards her. But you know what? It's a formula that works for me, so why change it? And I rated Two Can Play 4 stars. So the next book that I read was on my Kindle, and it was His and Hers by Alice Feeney. This one is a small town mystery thriller, and it has recently been adapted into a TV series that we also watched a couple of weeks ago. And I did like this book. I rated it 4 stars. It was a very creepy thriller, and I was definitely scared at times. So in this one we followed 2 different point of views. The first one is Anna, who works as a TV news presenter. You can tell from the start that she has a complex personality. You can see that she seems to be a functioning alcoholic, and you can see how much she really adjusts her personality for situations at the start. She's a very interesting person, and she gets sent to work on this case of a murder that happens in this small town, and when we get there we soon find out that she is actually from this small town. And the other point of view that we follow is a chief police officer in this small town named Jack, and I don't really love him from the start. He is a little bit condescending. You can tell he's not happy with his life right now, and we follow both of them, who both kind of seem a little bit suspicious, but are also trying to figure out what happened to this girl who was murdered. And you start to see how they're both a little bit intertwined with each other and with the murders that are currently happening in this town. I didn't mind the writing style of this one. It wasn't my favorite. It's my first Alice Feeney book, so I definitely want to give her another try. But this one, the writing felt a little bit cold, and the first half was a little bit boring. The second half definitely kicked off a lot more. It was very creepy, and the twists that kept coming, I definitely didn't guess most of them. And there were parts that were just creepy and disturbing that were very hard to read. And same with the show. The show was a lot less scary in terms of the creepiness, but it was disturbing. It's not not 100% my thing, but I enjoyed it. But yeah, the twist definitely got me. I thought I knew what was going on, and then the thing that I thought would happen, but then there'd be another twist that I never saw coming, which is always fun. And I normally do like an ending that's a little bit up in the air, but this one, it felt a little bit abrupt. Like, I don't know. I don't know how much to say without giving it away, but I didn't love the ending. And I don't know if this is spoilers, but I hated the unnecessary animal cruelty in here. It was a bit icky in my opinion. But the fun part was that you always kind of felt like you didn't know who to trust. Even the people whose point of views you were in, everyone kind of had a motive. Everyone seemed to be linked to everyone else or connected to the murdered people somehow, or they were acting a little bit suspicious. That made you a bit more confused about what was going on. And overall, I did enjoy it. It was a fun read and a fun show as well, and I rated this one 4 stars. And the next one that I listened to the audiobook of was Funny Story by Emily Henry, and I really enjoyed this. I love listening to the audiobooks for all of Emily Henry's books because I love the narrator. I think her name's Julia Whelan, and she's so good. I love anything that she narrates. She also does the Taylor Jenkins Reid's books so well. And I don't know why it has taken me quite so long to get to this book. I've almost read every other Emily Henry book at this stage. I think this was the last one that I had to read by her. And after doing a reread of People We Meet on Vacation last month, I was reading some comments on people who were talking about that book, and apparently Funny Story was kind of written to be the point of view of Sarah from People We Meet on Vacation. So it's kind of supposed to be her perspective after Poppy and Alex, they don't really screw her over, but kind of, and we finally get to see her happy ending, which I was very intrigued. That I hadn't heard that before, and it made me want to read it immediately. And I could see why people say this. So in this we follow Daphne, and at the start she was recently dumped by her fiance Peter, and that happened like right after his bachelor party, and it's pretty clear that he runs off with his best friend and they got together at the bachelor party. So you can see she has like that bitter perspective of Sarah watching Poppy and Alex go and have their happy ending while she's left. And so in this one, Daphne is watching Peter and Petra's happy ending. Daphne's situation is much worse in my opinion. I feel like it was really brutal. I really disliked Peter and Petra, and I don't think that's just because I'm not in their point of view this time. I think they were just a lot more immature and cruel than Poppy and Alex. So I decided to kind of separate in my mind Poppy and Alex from this book, and Peter and Petra are different people. So the storyline is that Daphne, when she's dumped by Peter, needs somewhere to live. So by a turn of events, she ends up living with Petra, her fiance's new girlfriend, his ex, Miles, and they're both grieving because they've both just been dumped, and so they kind of bond over that, and they form this friendship which is just so cute. I loved their friendship. It was funny, their banter was fun. I could see how they really just care about each other. And I did love Miles. He was kind of the golden retriever kind of a character. He was funny and cute and sweet, and he's just that kind of person who has friends everywhere because he gets along with everyone. And they had the perfect amount of slow burn. Because they're living together and they're friends, that kind of takes priority for them. So there is this tension, this like tension that builds and builds and builds and builds, but they won't really act on it, and they do get into this kind of fake dating situation. So that tension is built even more by that, because they have to get into situations where they need to kiss or touch each other and things like that. And it's so fun. I was obsessed. One part that I hated was Daphne's best or ex-best friend. I can't even remember her name, but she was horrible. She well, like, she's hardly even in the book. She basically abandons Daphne when she gets dumped by her ex, because her and her partner are close to Peter, and so they become friends with Peter and Petra, and then they're all posting together, and she's supposed to be her best friend, and she doesn't hear from her in months. And right at the end of the book, they kind of make up, like, and I'm like, what? I don't think Daphne should have forgiven her. Yeah, she's a horrible person. But I loved a lot of the new people that Daphne meets along the way in this adventure of kind of finding herself. She ends up having this cute little found family that she doesn't expect. And I love that she ends up finding herself a home in this town that at the start of the book she was so desperate to get away from. And overall, for me, it was a pretty perfect romance. I can't really find anything to fault it, so I rated Funny Story 5 stars. And then, I don't know what happened here, this is almost unheard of for me, but my next read was also a 5-star romance, and it was The Bodyguard by Catherine Center. I absolutely loved this. Again, pretty much a faultless audiobook. I can't remember the narrator's name, but I loved her as well. She was great, and I want to look out for her. And this one was basically a perfect rom-com-y kind of a fun romance. So in this we follow Hannah and Jack. Hannah is a bodyguard, a professional bodyguard, and Jack is a famous movie star. He's basically like one of the biggest heartthrobs in Hollywood. And Hannah, at the start of the book, her mum passes away, and she's not really she has complicated emotions when it came to her mum, so she's not dealing with it very well, and she just wants to throw herself into work. So she turns up to work the day after her mum's funeral, and her boss is basically like, what the fuck are you doing here? Go home, and takes her off all cases, basically. Like, he can tell that she needs a break. But when she's in the office, she runs into her boyfriend, who is another bodyguard, and he basically dumps her the day after her mum's funeral. So he's obviously a horrible person. And then we kind of follow her through the next little while as she's grieving her mum, and she finally gets put onto a case. And this case is like a huge case for their firm. It's like every single person in the office is working on this, and she gets put on to be Jack Singleton, the huge movie star's personal bodyguard. And when she turns up at his house, firstly he thinks she's the cleaner, because she's just this little small kind of woman. She doesn't really look like a bodyguard, and also he isn't expecting to have a bodyguard. So that was like a funny little scene that happened. And so his team have organized for him to have a bodyguard because he has these stalkers in his life that they just feel like he needs one. But he's against this, and as soon as he sees her, and she's this small kind of attractive woman, he's like, perfect, you can be my fake girlfriend. Because his mum's pretty unwell, and he doesn't want to scare her with the fact that he needs a bodyguard. So if she turns up and she's hanging around just because she's his girlfriend, he's like, this is the perfect situation. So it's kind of like this really fun, almost like a fake dating trope, because she's pretending to be his girlfriend, but she's actually his bodyguard. And this was a lot deeper as well than I expected. I was laughing at times, I was almost crying at times. It was really good. And yeah, both Jack and Hannah have kind of darker pasts than what it seems. So the way that they slowly bond as they get to know each other was really sweet. And also it was just really funny. I was laughing a lot. Even in like the intense action scenes, they were almost comical, or there were little funny parts to them. And the third act conflict wasn't actually like a normal, miscommunication breakup. It really made sense with the storyline, and it wasn't that serious, but at the same time it was. I don't know, it was perfect. And for anyone who wants to know, it was pretty much closed door in terms of spice. There was a lot of tension between them, and I felt like it was definitely enough in that area. But yeah, it was pretty much closed door. And this is another one that is being adapted into a movie. So I'm so excited to see how Leighton Meester and Jared Padalecki play out as Hannah and Jack. A perfect one to listen on audio. I 100% recommend that. And I rated this 5 stars. And so the next book that I finished was also an audiobook. And this one was Open by Andre Agassi. This is his memoir. And I read this because over the course of the month, me and Joel had quite a few long drives. And so we listened to the audiobook together. He's really into tennis. He used to play competitively, and we were just watching the AO. And it was just like, I don't know, I was looking for an audiobook that we would both be interested in. And yeah, I thought this would be a good one, and it was. I'm not rating this because I don't really like to rate memoirs unless I'm giving them a 5 stars. I feel like it's not that fair. So Andre Agassi, if you don't know, is one of the world greats in terms of tennis. He is an American tennis player. He's obviously retired now. I really liked how this audiobook was set up. As somebody who doesn't know too much about tennis or tennis players, and I wasn't familiar with Andre's story, this definitely kept me entertained all the way through it. The only thing is, at some points, the tennis matches were a little bit too detailed and went a little bit too long. But Joel was loving that, so it was fine. I was just like, I kind of zoned out a little bit in those parts and then just waited to hear if he won or not. So for anyone who doesn't know Andre's story, he had a pretty tough childhood, and for most of his career, well, I think for all of his career, he didn't actually enjoy tennis. He was forced into it as a kid. So he had a pretty harsh and controlling father who forced him and his siblings to spend hours a day as a child and all through growing up training to play tennis and to become tennis stars. And Andre just happens to be the one that ends up becoming the most talented, so he's the one that has all of the pressure put on him compared to his other siblings. So in this book, we kind of follow him from when he's a child and first training with his dad, learning to play tennis, all the way up through his entire career to when he's married and has kids, and to when he finally decides to retire. And it's so sad. You really see through his adulthood, through his career, when he makes it and when he's a tennis star, how the way that his dad treated him really affects his mental health. Because even when he's an adult and he should be free to do whatever he wants to do, he doesn't have to play tennis anymore, you can see he hates it. He hates tennis, but he does love winning, and it's kind of been wired into his brain that this is his life. So he kind of has this ingrained need to be number one and to just keep on competing, even though he hates it. It was kind of hard to watch at times. He's also portrayed by the media as like the bad boy of tennis, and that really gets to him. That's a bit sad as well. And he kind of becomes that persona because of the way that he's perceived. And overall, I did enjoy this. It was a fun listen and a great way for me to learn about a topic that I don't know too much about, and something that my boyfriend loves, which is fun as well. And it was something fun to listen to together because he doesn't really read, he doesn't listen to audiobooks that much. So if anything that he's gonna listen to or read, it's gonna be like a sports biography. So that was Open by Andre Agassi. But the next book that I read was Days at the Murasaki Bookshop. That was my first physical book of the month, and I talked about this a lot in my weekend reading vlog, so I'm just going to be brief here. But this book is With Love from the Murasaki Bookshop, and it's a bind up of 2 books, and I read the first one, so I'm excited to get into the second one hopefully next month. But in this one we follow Takako, who's living in Tokyo, and at the start of the book she is dumped by her boyfriend, and she quits her job as well because they work together, and she kind of falls into a bit of a depression. And that's when her uncle gives her a call and asks her to come and stay with him for a while. And he owns this cute little bookshop in a town outside Tokyo where basically all of the businesses, well, not all of them, but this town is just filled with hundreds and hundreds of bookshops. A lot of them are used bookstores. And so the vibes of this one are just extremely cozy. Over the, I think it's like a 6-month period that Takako stays with her uncle at this bookstore, she basically falls in love with reading. She falls in love with life again. Like, it's just filled with her doing a lot of reading, going to different little cafes, making friends with people that live in the area, and just finding who she is as a person a little bit more. Because she's kind of just been floating through life and she definitely wasn't very happy. I loved the descriptions of nature in here. She goes on this holiday to the mountains and she climbs a mountain, and there's just like beautiful descriptions of the countryside of Japan. But I didn't love the ending. I think that's like the main thing that I didn't love. It was just very abrupt, and we skip forward, I think, a year, and through the story there's this boy that she's been talking to that it seemed like she likes, and like that might develop, and I thought that might develop in the second book. But we skip forward a year and all of a sudden she's got a boyfriend. I think that's him. They don't even elaborate on who that is, so I don't know, I thought that was a bit random, but maybe they'll fix that in the second book. We'll see what happens. But overall, a very cozy, cute read, and I rated this one 3 stars. And the last book that I read this month was In the Weeds by B.K. Borison. And first of all, can we take a moment for this Afterlight edition? It's so cute. I'm obsessed with the hardcover as well. So this is the second book in their Lovelight Farm series, which is one of my all-time favorite romances. The first book was Lovelight Farms, and I don't know why it's taken me so long to finally get into this second book. I read that I think like 3 years ago now. I did a reread last year and I was just as obsessed with it. And so in the Weeds, we follow Beckett and Evelyn, who we met both of them in the first book. Beckett is a farmer on Stella's Christmas tree farm from the first book, and Evelyn came to write an article about the Christmas tree farm. And in the first book we see that they have a one-night stand and things are a little bit awkward when they run into each other again on the farm. But in this we follow Evelyn, who is a social media travel influencer, and at the start of the book she's just feeling uninspired. She's not loving her job anymore and she's just not happy. So she tells her agent that she's going to take a few weeks off, and she wants to head back to the last place that she felt any kind of happiness, and that place was Lovelight Farms. And so she goes straight there and she tries to stay in the little local motel, but they're all booked out. And she happens to run into Beckett that night, and he says, well, why don't you just stay with me? From there, we've obviously got a little bit of close proximity because they're living together, and they basically become closer, they become friends, and eventually a little bit more. I didn't enjoy this anywhere near as much as I loved Lovelight Farms. I loved both of these characters, so I don't know what it was, but something about this was just way too focused on the attraction that they felt for each other. We're in dual point of views, so we're in both of their heads as they're thinking about the other person, and everything is just attraction. I didn't really feel the tension between them very much. It was a sweet story. I loved being back in this little small town and being back on the farm, being back with Stella and Layla. And I loved meeting Beckett's family. In the first one, you kind of see him as this chill, kind of funny farmer dude. He doesn't have that much depth to him, but through meeting his family and seeing some of the trauma that he has, but he has depth, and I loved how he is around his family. He's got all sisters, and they're just a fun family. I loved the ending as well. It was very simple, perfect for their little romance, and overall I rated this a 3 stars. It was okay. I still loved the writing, and I'm very excited to get into the next book in the series, which is Layla's story. So those were all of the books that I have already finished this month. I am currently in the middle of 3 books. I'm reading Imagine Me on my Kindle. This is number 6 in the Shatter Me series, and it's the last full-length novel. I've just been slowly chipping my way at this over the last couple of weeks because I am struggling with it a little bit, and at the moment I am just really keen to get through this and get the series over with. So I'm hoping to finish this week ideally, but it's definitely going to be carried over into March. And the audiobook that I'm listening to is Divine Rivals, which I'm obsessed with. I think this is going to be another 5-star romance. If you don't know, Divine Rivals is a rivals to lovers historical fantasy, and it's so cute so far and just really entertaining. I'm loving it, but I'll talk a little bit more about that in my March reading wrap up once I finally finish it. And the physical book that I am currently in the middle of is Heated Rivalry by Rachel Reed, and I'm just over halfway through this, so I should be finishing this in the next couple of days. I am obsessed. I'm way more obsessed than I ever thought I would be. Everyone told me how much I was going to love the show. I tried to get into that. I've only watched the first episode so far. I'm way more excited to watch more after reading this, but yeah, I don't know why I waited so long, but I'm loving it. And those are all the books that I read in the month of February. So overall, a pretty decent reading month. I had quite a few 5-star reads, which I love. So thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy this, then please give it a like and consider subscribing. And I will see you in my next one. Bye.